Education has barely changed since the 17th century, but today's students, they're a lot different than they were even a few years ago, much less hundreds of years ago. So if we as educators and coaches and facilitators don't evolve the way we teach, we're going to lose a whole generation of students, or at least fail to serve them in the way in which they're most wanting to learn. My name is Marisa Murgatroyd, and I'm an expert in online education. Specifically, how do we get people so excited to learn, and perhaps maybe even more importantly, take action on what they're learning so they stop dreaming and start doing. Years ago, after I created my first online course, I remember being horrified to watch so many people fall out of the course and not complete it. And at first I thought it was me. I thought maybe I'm not meant to be a teacher, maybe I'm not meant to be a trainer. But I remember going up to a friend of mine and asking her, are you seeing people buy your course and not complete it? And she looks me dead in the eye and she says, Marisa, maybe some people just aren't meant to succeed. And I felt like I had been punched in the gut, because I believe that everyone is meant to succeed. Given the right support, the right training, the right guidance is meant to succeed. So in that moment, I made a choice. I made a choice that I wasn't going to teach anyone anything unless I put student success and engagement at the forefront of what I was hoping to do. But I didn't really know how to change the situation around, because everywhere I looked, everyone was experiencing the same courses that left their students behind. So I just started looking outside of the world of education for where in the world are we grabbing and keeping people's attention. And my search brought me to our cell phones and devices. It was the year 2016, and that summer everyone was going nuts over one specific game. Pokemon Go. I had spent that summer in Europe, and when I left for Europe, no Pokemon Go. And by the time I was at the end of our trip in Italy, I remember walking home from dinner with my husband Murray, and we hear this shuffling in the shadows, and for a second, I grabbed his arm because I thought we were gonna be jumped. But then we see this couple, hunched over their phones, giggling like children. And I remember Murray said Pokemon Go, and it was like busted, right? These grown adults were just stampeding through the streets by the thousands in search of these little virtual creatures. And I was thinking, if we can get people that excited about chasing virtual creatures through the streets, we gotta get people that excited about really chasing their hopes and their dreams and building the lives that they want. So here's the thing that I discovered in this search to see who in the world is capturing our attention in mass. So the first thing you need to understand is that your competition as a course creator, a coach, a facilitator, it's not who you think it is. Your competition isn't other businesses just like you. It's not other course creators and other coaches and other consultants. Your competition is really the Silicon Valley apps and games that are capturing people's attentions really by the billions. Because if you can't be as engaging, as exciting, if you can't get people's dopamine flowing because they feel like they're making forward progress and winning, you're going to be dead on the water. Because why is someone going to spend hours and hours following you, watching your trainings, consuming your courses if they don't feel good in the process, if they don't feel like they're winning, when they can just log on to their cell phone over here and get their dopamine button pushed over and over and over again? So it's really important that we shift the way that we teach, because people have shifted the way they want to learn. Now, the second thing that I really understood is that it's super important not just to understand that Silicon Valley is your competition, but to work with rather than against the reward system in our brains. And the reward system, the limbic system, is one of the oldest systems in our brains. This is the part of us that truly is ancient, reptilian even, and that part of the brain loves to win. So whenever we feel like we're winning, whether it's as simple as that little beep or bing on your cell phone when you play a game and when you win something, it releases this powerful flow of dopamine. And that dopamine gets us hooked. It causes us to lean in, want to keep going and going and going and going. And I call that the action reward cycle. So when you work with the reward system in someone's brain, they take action, They get rewarded in some way, shape, or form through points, through celebrations, through any kind of constant wins, and then they want to take more action and get rewarded again, and onwards and upwards to bigger and bigger actions and wins until they realize the promise you have to offer. Now, that's so different than most online courses that put people into a give-up cycle where they work with no wins and no rewards in sight, and ultimately they end up giving up. But they're not just giving up on your course, they're giving up oftentimes on their hopes and dreams and aspirations. And we got to do better than that. And doing better is as simple as understanding how are we designed to learn and grow and change our lives and work with our brains rather than against them. Now, before I dive into the next two things that I learned about bringing gamification into education, just wanted to say if you want to dive into how to create an online course that gets your people into action, whether you've got students in secondary school education or in your online course or clients that work with you as a coach, I've got a free course creation masterclass on how to use your knowledge, skills, and passions to create a high impact online course. And you can register at experienceproducts.com/masterclass. Okay. Now that brings me to the third thing that you need to understand about bringing gamification into education. And that is, this isn't just for kids. It's for people. Because here's the thing. We all have the same reward center inside of our brains. We all are hardwired to want that dopamine hit, to want to feel good, to want to keep taking action when we feel like we're winning and we're moving forward. So people always ask me, I work with retirees, Marisa, or I work with a really serious audience. I work with financial analysts or stock market, investors or whatever it happens to be. And the truth is that if they're humans, then this is the way that their brain works. And I don't care if someone's 5 years old or 55 or 105. We all want to feel rewarded for the actions we take. We all want to know that the actions we're taking aren't just, an act of futility, but are something that's going to help us win the game of life or business or health or whatever it is that you do for people. So if you work with humans, regardless of how old they are, what gender they are, where in the world they live, or what culture they come from, we're all hardwired the same way, and we have been since the dawn of civilization. So don't think that gamification is just for the young folks. It's really for anyone who wants to feel good while they're learning, who wants to overcome their greatest challenges in the way of learning, through building that momentum, through enjoying the process, through getting more deeply and deeply engaged. That brings me to my final point, and that is that we are no longer in an information age. We really are in the experience age. So the Industrial Revolution happened around the 1800s. That's where everyone got the same thing in the same way. That's when you'd go to the store and you'd buy a record and you'd play the record, and everyone's record sounded exactly the same. Then around 1993, the digital revolution came out. And this was all about getting information out as widely as possible. This was the time of the iPod, of having 1,000 songs in your pocket. And that was this massive selling proposition where everyone was wowed, because before they had to have this stack of records or this case of cassettes. And now this tiny little device could have 1,000 songs in your pocket. But what's the problem of 1,000 songs in your pocket? Well, how do you know which one to choose, right? So that gave birth eventually to the Experience Revolution, which started to happen around the year 2008. And around the year 2008 is when Spotify came out. Now is all about curating and customizing the music that was being offered to you based on your preferences. Maybe even sharing your playlists with your friends, with your family, so you could all be tuning in to the kind of same music if you wanted to, or just sharing your favorites. And the thing is, education, it came out in the Industrial Revolution. And then the dawn of online courses was all about the digital information revolution, which is just give people the most amount of information you possibly can and hope they're going to be able to do something with it. But the truth is, information alone doesn't change our lives. If it did, we'd all be living in Googletopia with the love of our life, the body that we've always wanted, millions of dollars in the bank. But that just didn't happen. We are drowning in information, and every year the amount of information is doubling. That's why it's time to really understand that we are in the experience age, and you got to let your students choose their own adventure through your information, your content, your training, because more is not better. It's about helping people create their custom experience where they feel like they're winning, they feel like they're engaged, that your product, program, course, classroom is responding to them and their needs. So that's it, the 4 things you really need to know when it comes to gamifying information today. Number 1, your competition isn't who you think it is. It's not other businesses like you, it's Silicon Valley. Number 2, you got to learn how to work with rather than against the reward system in your students' brains. Number 3, gamification is not just for kids, it's for all people. This is universal. And number 4, welcome to the experience age. Things are different now, and we've got to design differently for what people have come to expect. All right, so if this topic fascinates you as much as it fascinates me, and you realize that the only way to create an online course or program or classroom today is to use gamification and all the triggers you possibly can to really stack the odds in your students' favor, then I got a couple more videos for you. Go check out 6 simple techniques to gamify your online course and how to structure your online course to get the best results for you and your students. So go ahead, subscribe to this channel, and keep on watching. Now go out there and live your message.